Hi guys, it's Claire Matara and it's the 1st of June 2020. Today I want to talk about offerings to the Pachamama, which is called Ofrenda a la Pachamama. In 2006 and 2007 I traveled extensively through the Andes Mountains, especially around Lake Titicaca, Cusco, Sacred Valley, Machu Picchu and Huaraz and Chavin de Montar. We did lots of ceremonies in all the different places. I worked with groups. I was learning from shamans. I was learning from friends. So it was a very exciting and interesting time. And I learned many different practices and different shamanic things that people do in different parts of South America. Of course, in that area we have the Incas and we have the Aymaras. And I'll talk a moment about the Incas. The Incas were more of a masculine nature. They imposed themselves on the terrain. They created walkways and mountain temples and villages. They were directed to the sky, the energy of Spirit Father, the condor, and the gold of the sun. And sun was one of their principal gods, which they called Taita Inti, Grandfather Sun. They were conquerors. The Aymaras, a bit more to the southern part of the Cordillera Andes. They were there before the Incas and they are there still. They do not identify with the South American countries but with their language group and Aymara heritage. The language is very different from other groups and they have a very old but humble presence. They spread over North Chile, Bolivia and South Peru and were used by the Incas as workers and slaves, while the Incas were always worshipping the sun and the sky. The Aymaras worshipped the earth, which they called Pachamama. The Pachamama can also be seen as the cosmic origin of all that is, like the cosmic mother. Their relationship with the Pachamama is very profound and is present in all they do and all they love. The Spanish also conquered them and insisted they worship a man on the cross. And when they could not relinquish their Pachamama, a wise old soul, an Inca chief, Tupanqui, made a statue of the Virgin Maria, and she was finally accepted by both Aymaras and Roman Catholic bishops, and that saved a lot of bloodshed. She became the Virgin of Copacabana and has her Pachamama feast around the 6th of August, and the Aymaras from Peru and Bolivia come to Copacabana to bless their cars and their businesses, make offerings and do ceremonies. So the earth ceremonies usually have to do with all things practical, things about your family, things about getting by, making money, working the land, having crops. So I want to talk here about the Ofrenda offering. This is a way of talking to the Pachamama in a very positive way. There is another way in which a demon is called via sex or blood sacrifice, but I think those things do not please the Pachamama. She once told me during an ayahuasca ceremony, "Do you think I enjoy to be pressured with the blood of my own children? No. But those who wish for things that are not in their natural right to possess may do these practices, however they will have to pay in other ways for those desires." So now I leave the field of sorcery and black magic to discuss the Ofrenda. You could call it white magic, but there are explanations in how this actually works. In the case of a piece of land that is contested, the ownership has some problems. You want to find a home or a piece of land to grow plants, and even doing exams successfully and achieving degrees, all in the context of making a living in the present or in the future. Also in matters of partnership, finding a life mate, getting abundance in your life or business and having children. All these belong to the Pachamama offering. So how is it done? I wrote some notes. And I assure you there is no special requirements, only a sincere heart who forgives himself and his neighbors and contacts, a person who seeks to make a better earth. This assures a good outcome. So often people look for a priest or a priestess because maybe they don't feel so confident about being in good stead with the divine. But still, I believe everyone can do it. Often they look for a priest or priestess. The Aymara call them Yatiri. Mostly they are males, and they work also with coca leaves to read the future of the seeker. but I have seen grandmothers in this work too. Again, I believe it is accessible to anyone, since we are all children of the Mother Earth. How do you do it? You take a square piece of clean white cloth, about 70 by 70 centimeters. On this you heap a small quantities of seeds, products of the earth, for our food, like rice, oats, lentils, beans, seeds and nuts. Mainly staple foods that support simple life. Then you can add all sorts of things, like little statues of livestock and paper degrees and paper money, like Monopoly money. In Copacabana they have shops where you can buy all these things. It looks like a toy shop, but when you see the little dried up mummies of aborted fetuses from the llamas, you know it's not a toy shop and it's not for children. It is to buy these things, these little presents or these little requests for the earth, which you do end up putting in the ofrenda. I usually only put a small letter asking for the desired outcome and thanking her for everything. It's better if you ask something for the common good instead of purely for yourself. We usually include tobacco, which is a general sign of respect and connection for the spirits. And I usually put in a small crystal for extra transmission and for extra love. You can put a few precious stones, whatever takes your fancy, because this is your conversation with the Pachamama, your mother. We finish with herbs, coca leaves if available, and flowers, and then the corners of the cloth are folded in, and it all gets folded up over itself until you have a little bundle and a string goes around the folded parcel. In a selected spot you make a small hole in the ground and you can dedicate the soil with some aguardiente or agua florida or alcohol and smoke of a mapacho cigarette, or any cigarette really, but we like the mapacho because they are more natural. Then you lower the parcel into the ground in the hole. You can sing or do a prayer and close it all up as secretly as possible, so people don't see it. These ofrendas are sort of your private conversation with the Earth Mother, and so it's not necessarily for everybody to see. But in this case, I did it with my worker who has an interest in saving a piece of land, so we did it for that. In a day to a couple of weeks, things will start to change for you, and you will find living on the planet a bit easier. So this is it for now. Now I have some photos to talk about as well. So these are, when I was in Bolivia in the beginning, I did not have a camera with me, and I took a lot of photos by just making drawings. So this is one of the drawings of an Aymara young man, and these are two pots from the museum in La Paz, Bolivia, and you can see how these profiles are very typical of the Aymara people, like big nose and a strong chin, strong powerful chin. These people work the land with oxen and they work in a very simple way, and it is incredibly, they are incredibly strong. They are so strong. It's because they carry loads and they do everything by hand on the mountains, the steep mountains where you actually can't even bring equipment there. So they go sometimes on very, very steep slopes. Here is, I was in a hot water place in La Paz for a while where I was doing massages for people with arthritis, and here is a whole bunch of workers that I made drawings of. I made portraits of them, and so you can see a little bit their strong black hair, their strong noses for the males. Some of them have very round faces and some of them have longer faces. All of them were very strongly connected to working with the earth. So that is really the biggest thing for them. And here I have a picture of a Quechua young man who is from the Inca background. So you see a very strong, proud kind of energy. They are much more up and out and doing things, and they like to be busy, and they love climbing mountains. Bit dangerous sometimes, and this young man actually died when he was swimming a ravine in a river. Here I have a picture of an actual picture I made of an actual ofrenda that we made, but this time we put it in a fire. We didn't put it in the ground because this was on the archaeological site, so we didn't think it was okay to put it in the ground. And we were there in the night, the whole night through, and now that has been fenced off, but it's called the Temple of the Virgin on the Moon Island. So we did some work there with a group, and the snake has to do with the young man. I'm sitting there with a young man who is from Pucallpa. He is a Shipibo, so it's another tribe again with a completely different language also. He came out there and he works with ayahuasca, so the snake is more connected with the ayahuasca. So there we have a slightly different mix in the brew, a bit more something else in the brew. And the picture in the back there, that to me was an image of the Pachamama. There was a story about the Virgin of Copacabana that she was actually made from a blue cactus, or from a cactus that was covered in blue. I'm not really sure because she's been made up like a Spanish gentlewoman, so the Spanish always have to impress their own energy on it, and so she's not looking like a native lady, which would be a lot better if she was, because I'm sure she looks like a native lady. So that's basically all I put aside for now. This is another little picture that a friend of mine who is also a shaman made of me working with the energies of the Andes. He made it for me. In the beginning he didn't want to see me and told me to go home the whole time, but we worked together for about 2 years, and at the end of that he made this picture, and for me it's a bit like my graduation ceremony. That's sort of like me with working with shaman spirits and channeling energies and opening up portals to different dimensions. And this is the Milky Way, the serpent of the Milky Way, and my Maya sign is that I'm part of the serpent of the Milky Way.